All right, good afternoon. Welcome back here to Trader Minute. Great to have you aboard. I'm going to go jump out here and make a trade here. We're looking at Halliburton. We're going to go buy some calls here on Halliburton. The ones that we're looking at, I'm not going to make the trade just yet. But let me show you kind of what we're looking at here with Halliburton. Halliburton has been on a major upward trend and has recently had a very orderly pullback. We had some building volumes down here around 49. Um, Down here at this 49 level, and kind of building here to potentially have a bottom. We had a gap up above the 7 here today. Some continued bullish pressure the entire day. From an hourly perspective, you can see this finally break into a new short-term high, instead of lower highs and lower lows on the downtrend, finally breaking into a new short-term high here with a very nice setup here on Halliburton. We do have some vibe principles here. We do have everything tied up on the major moving averages. We're down around the 100-day moving average. The major moving averages, to say much about support and resistance there, a little bit tough. This is more of a bounce that we're looking for here with Hal, as it's broken above the 7. And one of the things that we're looking for with Hal is we're looking for just a retracement. So to come back into the 51.5 to 53.5 area, back up towards the 50-day moving average. It's all that we're looking for with Hal. So we're going to go out and make this trade. Now the options that we're using here are these January 2s. Okay, and I'm looking at them here for a dollar 54. Okay, and I'm going to go out and get into them. But these are weekly options. Okay, please note these are weekly options. Okay, I'm in 10 contracts for 154. They are the January 2 50 strike. Okay, so these basically expire on January 10th or January 11th, depending on your broker. Okay, these aren't the normal January options. This is for the 100K challenge. Okay, they aren't the normal January options, but these have some of a better risk reward scenario that we want to see here. Okay, so that should be going out there. Yes, this is for the challenge. Okay, for the challenge. Okay, we bought Hal calls. Okay, the January 2nd week. Okay, at the 50 strike. Okay, for 154. Okay, for 154. And anything between about $1.50, $1.65, the risk reward makes sense here on those. Okay, let me just verify that the alert went out. There we go. And if you'll look here, with Halliburton from a risk reward standpoint, yeah, the daily's moving above the 7, right? But we can even break this down on an hourly basis and kind of use some of today's price action. We move below 49.75. That's kind of the nervous time for the trade. That's when we'd look to kind of pull it off there and say, this isn't working. This is the type of price action here for Hal that tends to have really nice follow through over the coming days. And in here, I'd love to see this thing just bounce up to 52 ahead of the Fed, take it off, and say thank you very much. A $2 move here would be about a double for the option. So we have a really nice risk reward setup here on Halliburton. There's not a ton of volume here today, you'll notice. Okay, not a ton. It will end with decent volume. It won't end, as low as it is as we had the last hour. But we don't need heavy volume today, given some of the increased volumes that we've seen down in this 49 area, kind of building that support here on Halliburton. Okay. So that's Halliburton for the challenge. Again, 10 contracts. Okay, of the January 2. Okay, January 2, the second week of January, the weekly options, they expire in 25 days. So we have time. It's not like we are doing a weekly that expires this Friday. This is a weekly that expires way out, okay? Way out in the second week of January, the 50 strike for $1.54. Okay, you'll notice there wasn't a lot of open interest on here. Okay, 10 contracts. Okay, 10 contracts, Mel. Good, thanks, Max. Okay, we got into 10 contracts, so that puts just about half of our money in play. Okay, and we'll kind of go from there. We may jump into one other thing here into the close here today. It really will kind of depend on how this market decides it wants to close here today. But we may do that. But I'll leave you to Carl and his top three. In fact, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Carl has Halliburton on his top three here today. Okay. MPEL. Let's take a look here. And Dallas, you asked about MGM. Sure, let's go take a look at those two, and I'll pop off here. MGM, overall, MGM is still in a very bullish position. Okay, it's in a very bullish position. There's no danger signs. There's no elevated volume signaling a reversal. There's nothing to say, hey, it can go down here. It's overbought, but it tends to stay in overbought territories for a while. So at this with MGM, I can't argue riding it higher. It's just, hey, pick your spot where you say, you know what, enough is enough. Where you say, hey, I want to be out overall. You can kind of put a trailing stop. You can trim some and ride the rest. But overall, it's still running. It's still running hot. Still closing in the upper Bollinger Band. You got the stomach for it. Keep pressing the gas. There with MGM. Okay. MPEL, Brad, MPEL here, which is kind of in the same industry as MGM. It's a very, very similar chart. You have some sort of doji candle here today. Does that mean anything? Probably not. Very light volume, uptrend continuing. I'd be nervous if it gapped below today's lows of 38.16. I'd get a little bit nervous there. Okay. All right. Overall. The account is at, if you don't take into commissions, I believe the number that Carl had was 3,070. Probably if you add commissions, you're probably somewhere around 2,980. But somewhere just north of 3,000 or just south of 3,000. Okay. Doug, for Halliburton, the calls for the January 10s here. The January 10s here are trading at $1.54, $1.55. The first week of January's are trading around $1.30. Okay, so we're just going out one extra week there, Doug. That's the only difference there. One extra week. Okay. All right, good deal. Hymex, which was kind of tearing it up here today. We talked about it hitting 12. Stocks that break 10, they tend to go to 12. They tend to find resistance at 12, and so it's like stocks that break 100. They tend to go to 120. They tend to find resistance there. Hymex could break 12, but I would be pulling some profit at this point if I were in Hymex. Morgan Stanley. Morgan Stanley here, the action relatively insignificant for Morgan Stanley today. It gapped up slightly because of the futures. No real volume. Kind of like Bank of America, same type of thing here today. No real major action. They're waiting on the Fed. Okay, they're waiting on the Fed overall there. Alrighty, well, we bought some Halliburton calls, okay? Some of the second week in January, the 50 strike price for $1.54. Okay, we're looking for kind of Halliburton to hold on to the 49.75, 49.80 area. We break that. enough's enough. We'll move on, and we're looking for it to bounce up into the 52 area. The retracements between about 51.5 and 53.5. So anything in that area, and we're looking for the bounce kind of to happen before the Fed, and to be able to be out of this before the Fed here. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for hopping on, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.